What's going on, everybody? This is dkdynamite for another episode of Community Quotes. This is a series where we take some of the wildest claims that I've seen online and we dissect them in a full commentary. Today, we're going to be focusing on something I just saw a few days ago, right when the beta concluded for BO7, that suggested that supply drops could actually be returning. Definitely stay tuned. Now, we got some awesome beta gameplay in the background. Honestly, I might have recorded too much footage during the beta to the point where the game could come out in January and I'd probably still have a bunch of footage until then. But when it comes to what we're going to be focusing on in this video, I think for context, it's worth mentioning how supply drops used to work. So these were introduced back in Advanced Warfare 2014. Essentially, before the gaming industry went through a big shift that kind of made these illegal, this was a form of gambling within the Call of Duty experience. So the safe way to open supply drops was to just go ahead and put in a bunch of in-game time and earn them for free. That's not what a lot of people ended up doing though, considering how much money Activision ended up making on COD points and microtransactions during the supply drop years. So the alternative to just playing the game was spending money on COD points, a brand new currency which just got added with Advanced Warfare as well, which you could then use to buy supply drops. So the system initially started with just cosmetics and blueprints really, which did come with better attachments for a bunch of weapons, but the system later evolved to include actual new ranged and melee weapons as well. I will say Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 3 are probably the most aggressive supply drop systems that we saw, whereas I do think Infinite Warfare was pretty lenient to the point where season pass holders were able to get their hands on new base DLC weapons for free so long as they bought that $50 season pass. Variants of new weapons were available through supply drops, whereas in a game like Modern Warfare Remastered, which released alongside Infinite Warfare, there was a salvage system allowing you to go ahead and craft items of your choosing so that you can kind of avoid the RNG of the supply drop system, which also contained a bunch of new DLC content. I will say I think World War II 2017 also had one of the more fairer systems that we got during the supply drop era, where you were able to go ahead and complete challenges to go ahead and get guaranteed rare supply drops that had some of the better blueprints and a bunch of the cosmetics that people were actually chasing. But something I've been vocal about for the last couple of years is that Black Ops 4, with the black market revamp that ended up coming out during, I want to say, the last few months of the game cycle, that, in my opinion, was absolutely how the supply drop system should have always worked, where they give you a big menu that shows you every single mastercraft available behind supply drops, and you can just grind the game and collect a certain amount of drops to trade for that guaranteed item of your choice. Obviously, throughout the years, there were different bundles and grand slams and different supply drop bonuses that allowed you to get certain weapons guaranteed, but I feel like Black Ops 4 hit a sweet spot where they really did show us that the system could actually be fair after all. Now, Black Ops 4 is also interesting when it comes to supply drops because the system initially started as a cosmetic-only supply drop system, which was kind of surprising considering that every previous Call of Duty before it had put ranged weapons behind actual supply drops. It wasn't until like Days of Summer, so many months after BO4 came out, that ranged weapons were in fact added to supply drops. And just for honorable mention, I think it's funny that battle passes were completely free back during Black Ops 4, which I think went hand in hand with the fact that a supply drop system still existed, so they didn't want to double down on aggressive MTX. But right when the beta concluded for BO7, this image started floating around Twitter, and upon first glance, it does look like what could be a new version of supply drops. You can see that certain attachments or parts of the weapon are being pointed to, and there's these crates below those arrows which kind of do look like new supply drops. And for some reason, a memory just unlocked in my head of what the MW19 supply drops were going to look like, since there were some images that got leaked out showing that that system was going to come back, but due to backlash when these images had leaked, it looks like the entire supply drop system ended up getting completely removed. And as I mentioned earlier, the gaming industry also shifted to where systems like this in a number of regions ended up being labeled as predatory, so they ended up removing this system from Call of Duty altogether. I know COD Mobile still has a system like this, but that's a discussion for a different video. Now, once this image popped up, I saw a lot of folks freaking out on Twitter. It wasn't the biggest storm in the world, but a lot of folks were talking about this, and right when I saw the image, I was like, okay, hold on a second. We know that supply drops, as we used to see them, can't really come back to modern-day premium Call of Duty. If a system like that did come back, then it would probably have to be something just like Black Ops 4's Black Market Revamp, where you're able to grind a bunch of cases by doing challenges and then trading those in for the weapon of your choice. You probably wouldn't even have the option to buy those supply drops using actual COD points. So not even for a second did I think a system like that was really gonna come back inside of Black Ops 7. Other things that were floating through my head were like, maybe that's a weapon prestige image. It's showing that you can unlock special attachments for each weapon, which has already been a confirmed system, as you level up your weapon all the way up to 250. There was also speculation about what could have been universal attachment bundles or blueprints that maybe aren't mastercrafts that allow you to lock the look in no matter when you change attachments or not, which is something that Weapon Vaults introduced in Modern Warfare and is also something that we've seen with certain mastercrafts inside of Black Ops 6. I'd also be curious to see if attachment looting does end up coming back inside of the upcoming Blackout 2.0. That's going to be an experience exclusive on Avalon in spring 2026 within Warzone. I'd assume if it's inspired by Blackout, attachment looting is going to come back. Maybe you could find attachments in specially marked chests like the ones in this image, or you'll just be able to find attachments in random loot boxes anyway. But it looks like the truth behind this image has already been revealed, and it was revealed through a graphic that I actually didn't end up seeing when I was over at COD Next, nor did I really see this image during the beta. Maybe you guys did. It might have been one of those rare images that isn't actually meant to pop up live for everybody, but for certain players it did. That's happened every now and again where there's a bugged message of the day or a bugged graphic when you click on an event. Sometimes stuff like that happens, and it does look like on a content creator's stream, this image did come up with those weird looking loot chests, and it's just something that is referencing weapon builds. Now, with this image being relevant when it comes to weapon attachments, I could assume that we'll probably end up seeing this with the full launch of the game when we end up booting Create a Class again. And I'd also assume they'll do a lot more advertising with some images of how the weapon build sharing system is going to work, because not only can you just copy a code that you saw in a YouTube video or on a website, or if somebody DM'd it to you, let's say on PSN or Xbox, but when you die to somebody in-game, you can actually copy the build code from a kill cam and then place it into your Create a Class to just mimic that exact build. So it looks like that's a bit of a relief for folks out there that were worried about supply drops potentially coming back inside of Black Ops 7. What I did want to mention though is that I do think Call of Duty is due for a change with the way that cosmetics work and with the way that we can actually earn a lot of this free content, so that we can maybe go back to a point like we saw during the supply drop era where every cosmetic added to the game can technically be earned for free. Obviously that'd require a ton of in-game time to get enough supply drops to possibly roll every single item. Everybody knows that was probably almost impossible without spending a little bit of money on COD points, but with the amount of bundles we get every single season, we would at least hope for additional ways that we can earn COD points so that folks out there could at least buy 1 to 2 2400 COD point bundle per season. That's something that maybe Modern Warfare 4 is going to revolutionize and introduce, just an all new way to earn cosmetics, apart from saying, hey guys, you'll occasionally get some cosmetics, blueprints, camos, or operators through events and weekly challenges, whereas everything else that's flashy or has tracers or is animated is going to be behind an expensive bundle or a Black Cell Battle Pass. Maybe we'll finally get a way to get some of that other stuff for free, but in a new way that's maybe on par with supply drops without any of the aggressive monetization practices behind it. I mean, if you look at the SBMM era of Call of Duty, which I guess we can label from Modern Warfare 19 all the way to Black Ops 6, if you look at that era, we've had just about the same cosmetic system and the same microtransactions all across the board in each of those games. I mean, there's been a few changes here and there, like the introduction of Black Cell or event passes, but I do think we're due for a change, and I honestly wouldn't mind seeing a black market revamp-like system inside of, let's say, Modern Warfare 4 or a game after. Hell, they could even introduce it late in BO7, and I wouldn't mind, where it's just a system that allows you to grind a free currency that you can then trade for all the expensive cosmetics that are usually locked behind a paywall. But that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. Leave our thoughts down below in the comment section. Figured I would go ahead and address this image in a full dedicated video because I've seen lots of misconceptions about this, and instead of just replying to like a dozen different comments or more, I figured we'd include this in the community quote series, since some folks were actually freaking out about the potential of seeing supply drops returning inside of premium COD. I think at the very most, you'll still see a lot of the aggressive MTX within COD Mobile, a separate entity altogether, and you'll probably still continue to see the bundle system and battle passes, but we could just hope that we'll end up seeing a fair supply drop-like system in the future, so that folks who have missed out on so many great cosmetics over the years that were usually locked behind paywalls can finally get a chance to start unlocking some of that. With that being said, really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everybody.